Good afternoon, all. So I see a lot of students here. Let me ask you a question. Like before coming today, how many of you thought that you were going to learn something new today? Can you please raise your hands? Okay. I see a lot of hands. But sadly, the number is much more less when we go to any random school or any random classroom. So let me first introduce myself. My name is Vaishali Sharma, and I am the co-founder of Young Thinker Foundation. So let me first tell you a story. So this is about 1800s when the Industrial Revolution started in England, and at that time East India Company also started its business in India. It was during that time that the East India Company needed clerks, needed people who can work over there. And they were facing communication issues with the people over here in India. So they sent a person named Thomas Macaulay to India and said to go over there and understand the people and come up with a solution by which we can solve this communication gap issue. Macaulay was not very much interested for coming to India, but somehow he came, he spent some time over here. He didn't bother to understand the Indian culture or Indian language, and after his visit, he went and proposed a memorandum and said we need to introduce our education system and all the complete system should be taught in English language. This is what we call it as the modern education system. So now if we talk a little more ahead in the time, so previous to this, like British coming to India, so before that, the people used to study in a system known as Gurukul, where the student used to go to the house of the gurus and they used to learn from that guru. Not just learn, but also like they used to stay with the gurus, they used to clean their houses, they used to help the guru with the household work. So they didn't only learn about the literature part, but they also learned about the normal day-to-day lifestyle, how to live in a society, and how to be an individual or a good citizen. Now, if I come back to our current education system, so if I take a teacher as a potter, and this education system as a potter wheel, so the potter has 12 years of a student's life to mold the clay and to make him into something better. So a teacher, I would say teaching is an art rather than just a profession, because here the artist have so much of ample time by which he can make anything out of that child. He can encourage and motivate and guide him. In that 12 years of time, he can give him that kind of skills by which that student can become anything, literally anything in this world. Understanding this gap in the ecosystem, understanding the need of the practical education, the hands-on education. When I was in college in 2015, I, along with my co-founders, started this foundation, Young Thinker Foundation, where we started teaching them about the hands-on learning. We conducted several workshops. We conducted several like monthly programs and ways by which we can teach students. We can give them those kind of skills that will make them future ready. We taught them about 3D printing, about robotics, electronics, and several other skills were given. So we introduced the concept of tinkering. So what is basically a tinkering? So tinkering is a way by which student can make some small changes to the existing devices or equipment. They can experiment and they can learn about the tools and then they can make something out of it. So after the tinkering, then comes the making. Now the students have become makers and they are ready to make something out of it. And then comes innovating. After the student have learned to make something out of the existing model, they can now innovate, they can come up with new ideas, and now they can become innovators, and some out of them can become entrepreneurs. So in this whole process, in this whole tinkering process, few will become makers, few out of those will become innovators, and a very few will become entrepreneurs. But in this whole journey, everyone will become tinkerers. So it is a different thing whether a person goes for entrepreneurship or they just go for a job. But in this whole process, they become a problem solver. They are ready to take up any kind of work. They are ready to tinker around and put on their own creativity into that work and come up with solution. When we are talking about developing the nation, when we are talking about developing a society, we should be focused and we should be taking action on how we can develop people at our grassroots. When people from will start becoming entrepreneurs, when people from those rural areas will be problem solvers, it will be at that time our nation will be developing. Those people will start solving the problems which are there, and they will create solution. At the same time, they will create employment for the people around them. So in this whole process, it is very important to gain the practical application, to gain some skills, and then put that into action. So apart from this hard skills that I'm talking about, we should also give equal importance to the soft skills. Skills like design thinking, where students are taught how to design their thought process. They should initially understand and know how they can identify a problem before creating a solution for it. They should also work on peer-to-peer learning. This is a very important and essential exercise because in this way, the communication skills improves, their confidence improves, they get leadership qualities, and then they learn how to work in a group, how to work in a collaborative setup. So we introduced this concept of tinker spaces, where the thing that I was talking about, tinkering. So here the student do the tinkering, and I'm happy to say that one of our tinker space is here in Bhubaneswar with the name Young Tinker Academy. And now the student of this academy is taking part in several national and international competitions. One of the success story being that our 10-member student team participated in the NASA Human Rover Exploration Rover Challenge, and they stood third in that position. They achieved world rank 3 in that particular competition. So you name any competition, our students are taking part in that. So, and if I have to talk about the students who were there in that team, so it was a mixture of both urban students and rural students. There were students from good schools because obviously you need to talk to the NASA people and give presentations. And there were also people from a very remote places, like there were a student who was a cycle mechanic. There was a girl who was a welder, a roadside welder, there was a migrant laborer, and we brought everyone over there and they took part in this competition. One of our students recently also became the global winner in the AI Intel Fest, and he received a grant for his startup. So the idea is that with all this tinker culture, with all this concept, our students are now learning how to innovate, and they are now becoming entrepreneurs and leaders. So now I'm talking about the tinker spaces. So you must be wondering like how these spaces are created. So I must tell you, behind this, all these tinker spaces, we have a power team, we have a women team who work and go to different places to start and set up these tinker spaces. And if I have to give you the background of these women, so they are basically 10th or 12th pass students who then come to our facility, we train them, and we then make them ready to work, to create these tinker spaces. So be it like drilling over there or setting up the tinkering station as we call it, or like assembling the 3D printers, all are done by our women team. And we also make sure that we engage the student of that tinker spaces, we engage the teachers, the facilitators of that spaces, and we make them a part of that setup culture. So we are not just working on the holistic development of the student, but we are also working on empowering the women. We are also working on generating employment and giving them focusing on the skill development part. So I would like to thank the Argus team for giving me this platform, for coming and talking over here. And I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome you all in the Tinker Space that we have in Bhubaneswar. And you can definitely come and visit over there. Thank you so much.